Hey guys, this is Mr. Gran, and this is 6.3 Dividing Polynomials. In this video, we'll be going over long division of polynomials. All right, so to learn this, we're first going to review how to actually just divide two numbers using long division, because the steps are basically the same when it comes to polynomial division. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do with the 63 divided by 5 is I'm not going to look at how many times 5 goes into 63. I'm going to look at how many times 5 goes into 6, right? So 5 goes into 6 once. That means I put a 1 on top. And then I take that 1 and I do 1 times 5, which is 5. I write that under the 6 and I subtract it. 6 minus 5 is 1, and then I take the next number and I bring it down like that. All right, now I do the same thing. I'm looking at, does 5 fit into 1? No. Does it fit into 13? Yes, it fits into 13 two times. And then 2 times 5 is 10, so that is what I will subtract from 13. To get a remainder of 3. Now, when you first start learning this way back in like second, third grade, oftentimes you do this as 12 remainder 3. And, just like with the remainders in synthetic division, we are going to write that as a fraction, except our fraction is going to be polynomials. So 12 and 3/5 is a little more like what we're going to be doing with polynomials. So if you want to take a minute and try the next one, and then unpause when you're ready. All right, so we'll start 8 divided by 7. That is 1. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract. That is 1. We'll bring down the 2. 7 goes into 12 one time. And 1 times 7 is again 7. We'll subtract, and we get 12 minus 7 is 5. Then we'll bring the 4 all the way down. 7 goes into 54 7 total times. 7 times 7 is 49. We subtract it and get a remainder of 5. So 117 remainder 5, or 117 and 5/7. All right, now when it comes to long division of polynomials, there's some steps that we can take. So there's a little bit of vocab here. Take a moment and read through this and write it down in your notes. So this is just the vocab regarding like the different parts of the problems, right? The stuff that's being divided that goes inside of the division symbol is called the dividend. What you're dividing by is called the divisor, and your answer is the quotient, right? So we are going to divide the first term of the dividend by the first term of the divisor. That'll make more sense when you see it done in an example. Once we're done with that, we're going to multiply the quotient by the entire divisor. So we're going to multiply the entire thing here, and then we're going to subtract that from the dividend. So basically the same thing as what we did in this step, where we divided not necessarily the entire thing by the divisor, but the first term of it, or the first part that this would fit evenly into. Then after that, we multiplied the number by 5 and we subtracted it, and we brought down the next term and repeated. It's going to be the same thing, only instead of numbers, it's going to be little equations. All right, so something like this. If you've learned synthetic division, you know that you could use synthetic division for this, but we're starting with a really kind of basic example, and so we're going to do this using long division instead. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to divide the first term of our divisor, our first term of our dividend by the first term of our divisor. So I'm going to do x squared divided by x. And I like to do this just sort of off in the margin of my notebook when I'm doing these. And that equals x. So that's the first part of our answer. This x is going to go up here on top. Right, so that's the first part of my quotient. My answer is x. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this x and I'm going to multiply it by the entire divisor. Right, that's going to give me what I want to subtract from here. So I will do x times x plus 1, which is equal to x squared plus x. Now I'm going to write this underneath. And I'm not going to write pluses. I like to write them just as positives, because when I subtract a positive, it turns it into a negative, like that. Okay, All right, so now if I do the actual subtraction, the x squareds, these first terms should always cancel out. If they don't cancel out, you did something wrong. Negative x minus x is going to be negative 2x. And then I'll bring down that negative 2, that minus 2, to there. And now we just repeat that process. All right, so when I repeat this, I'm going to divide this first term. This is my new first term, the first term of what's left after I divided x plus 1 out of here x times. I'm left with this. So I'm going to divide the first term here by the first term x. So negative 2x over x, that equals negative 2. That's the second part of my answer, of my quotient. So that's going to go right up here. So x minus 2 is my quotient so far. Now I'm going to take that minus 2 and I'm going to multiply it by the entire divisor. And that's what's going to give me what I need to subtract in the next step. So negative 2 times x plus 1, that is equal to negative 2x minus 2. So if I write that underneath here, negative 2x minus 2, I'm subtracting. So when I subtract a negative, it changes it to a positive. And now it looks like everything cancels out. The negative 2x and plus 2x cancel out. The negative 2 and the plus 2 cancel out. So my remainder is 0. And so my answer doesn't have a remainder. Oops. It's just x minus 2. So now what this means is if we divided x squared minus x minus 2 by x plus 1 and we got this, it means that x plus 1 times x minus 2 is equal to x squared minus x minus 2. You don't necessarily have to know that, but I think it does help kind of going forward if you understand that. All right, now this one's a little more complicated. If you want to try this, pause and then restart the video, resume the video when you're ready. All right, so it's the exact same thing. I'm going to start with this first term and divide it by the first term of my divisor. So it's going to be x cubed over x, which gives me x squared. That's the first term of my answer. All right, now I'm going to take that x squared and I'm going to multiply it by x plus 5, and that gives me x cubed plus 5x squared. X cubed, 5x squared. I'm going to change the signs because I'm subtracting it. The x cubeds cancel out and I get 6x squared, and I can bring down the next term, plus 30x. All right, I'm going to repeat that process. I'm going to divide the 6x squared by x now. And get rid of all of that. 6x squared over x. That equals 6x. So that is the next term of my answer. Now I'm going to take 6x and I'm going to multiply it by x plus 5. And that gives me 6x squared plus 30x. All right, so now I'm going to write that underneath here, 6x squared and a positive 30x. Change the signs. Everything cancels out here. And so what I'm left with is 0. I still need to bring this 45 down. And so at this point, 45 does not divide evenly by x. So that means that 45 is my remainder. And so my answer is going to be, my quotient is going to be x squared plus 6x plus 45 over the divisor, x plus 5. And that is my answer. All right, try this one if you're ready. Otherwise, the only difference here is it's a little bit bigger because we're dividing by a trinomial. So this is one where we truly would need to use long division in order for this to work. All right, I'm going to start it the same way. X cubed, the first term divided by the first term. So x cubed over x squared, that gives me x. All right, now I'm going to take x and I'm going to multiply it by the entire divisor. So I'm taking this x and I'm multiplying it by this whole thing. So x squared plus x plus 1, and that gives me x cubed plus x squared plus x. That's what I'm going to subtract. So x cubed, x squared, x. Change the signs of all of them to subtract them. The x cubeds cancel out. For x squared, I've got 2x squared. And 3x minus x is 2x. And then I can bring down the plus 2. And now I'll repeat. My new first term is 2x squared. I'll divide that by my first term, x squared, which equals 2. So it's x plus 2. Then I'm going to multiply 2 times 2x squared plus x plus 1. That gives me 2x squared plus 2x plus 2. That's what I'm going to subtract. So 2x squared, 2x, and 2, and we're subtracting all of them. Everything cancels out again, so there's no remainder. So that is my answer, just x plus 2. All right, this one looks a little bit different. It's just written in a different form. So in order to use long division, we're going to have to convert it to long division form first. So this is the first part. This is my divisor, 3x minus 1. So that goes on the outside. And then the second part, this part goes on the inside. So 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. And now once it's set up like that, it's really the same thing, right? First term divided by first term. 3x squared over 3x equals x. Then I can do x times 3x minus 1. So 3x squared minus x. We'll subtract that. 3x squared minus x. Subtracting changes the sign so that x becomes a plus x. That makes this 6x, and we'll bring down the minus 2. Now we can repeat that process. We're going to divide 6x by 3x. 6x over 3x is equal to 2, so it's x plus 2 for our our quotient, our answer. And then 2 times 3x minus 1 becomes 6x minus 2. That's what I'll subtract. 6x minus 2. We'll change both signs. So the 6x's cancel out, the 2's cancel out. We've got a remainder of 0, so we divide evenly again, and x plus 2 is our answer. All right, one last one. So if you want to try this one, pause it. This one's got a little different looking remainder to it. So we've got 3x plus 2 when we're dividing it into 6x squared plus 17x plus 7. So we'll start out first term divided by first term. And that gives us 2x. Then we'll do 2x times 3x plus 2. That gives us 6x squared plus 4x. So 6x squared, 4x. We'll subtract those. The 6x squareds cancel out, and then I'm left with 13x, and we'll bring down the 7, so plus 7. Now, when I try to do the next part, right, I'm taking the 13x and I'm dividing it by 3x. 13x over 3x does not divide evenly. The x's cancel out, but 13 over 3 doesn't divide evenly. So my opinion on this, the way I would write the answer at this point, if it doesn't divide evenly, the rest is going to be the remainder. So this whole thing is my remainder as soon as I can't divide evenly. So it's going to be 2x plus 13x plus 17 all over 3x plus 2, and that whole thing is my answer.